Thanks for coming back. We're going to take the next 30 to 40 minutes to take a look at how you can be the most successful on your upcoming either one-day certification exam, or if you're engaging in the longitudinal exam, how do you maximize your score? And most of this is about allaying fear. I have nothing to disclose that will in any way create any bias in what I'm going to present. Here are our learning objectives. We're going to explain the process and how it is part of this certification, recertification conundrum in family medicine. But maintenance of certification is here to stay, as you know. We have to have an individual plan for study for each of us because each of us is coming at this from a different perspective. We're going to look at some specific test-taking techniques. You know, I get to a question and I'm like, I have no idea what this answer is. I'm not even sure where to find it. I'm running out of time. I need to make a choice. And lastly, I want to help you manage the anxiety because this is an important piece. So let's start with this. What's this examination process and what is it in terms of certification and recertification? Okay, so I'm going to do a costume change here in front of you. And that's because about 70% of what you are going to hear in the next 30 minutes or so is based on the current evidence. 30% is going to be based on David Weissmiller. And why should you even listen to that? When this course started 18 years ago, just as a brief synopsis, it was placed in the fall as a opportunity for those taking the November exam to have a board review course. Well, 18 years ago when all this started, in order to take the November exam, you fell into two groups of people. One, you were a resident who was off cycle and didn't finish by June 30th, i.e. typically you had had a child. The second was a group of individuals who had not passed the exam. That was the largest group. Okay, think about it. What do you think the anxiety rate or anxiety level was like at those early courses? High. Well, thanks to our colleagues who were moving through that process, they were exceedingly generous in talking with me about what worked, what didn't work, what the anxiety was, and how best to do that. So I've incorporated not only that beginning information, but humbly what I have accumulated as a professional doing this work over the last 18 to 20 years. So you're going to get a part of that as well. Now, what's the process then? Okay. Remember, you are right now at an American Academy of Family Physicians course. The aafp does not write, nor do they administer the examination. That exam is written and administered by the American Board of Family Medicine. Now, as I always refer to the two organizations, on a good day, they're kind of like kissing cousins. Now, the ABFM sets the FMC certification requirements. In order to meet ongoing certification, you have to accumulate points related to knowledge self-assessment and performance improvement. You've got to complete continuing medical education. You have to continuously comply with the ABF guidelines as they look at professionalism, licensure, personal conduct, etc. You have to pay your dues, and every 10 years, you have to take an exam. Please look at this. All of these components make up the maintenance of certification. If you are not in compliance with one, you potentially lose your certification. Now, I say this because when you get your certificate that you have passed the exam, and remember, as I put in the chat this morning, the goal of this course is that we're all going to pass. But when you get your certificate, you will see that there's no end date on it. Because unlike the old days, where when you passed the exam, you were good for 10 years, this is just one component of maintenance of certification. The component we're talking about here is the cognitive assessment. There are two ways to do it, as you know. One-day exam every 10 years. If you're initially certifying, this is the only route by which this cognitive assessment can be undertaken. 300 multiple choice questions. In the last several years, they have now pooled flexible break time. So between each of the sections, you might want to take 10 minutes of break and then an hour and a half for lunch. You may want to take a half-hour break and a half-hour for lunch. On the one-day exam, there's about a 90% pass rate on first trial. The past performance predicts your future performance. I know this is going to be amazing to you, but if you go into your ABFM portfolio,